Today's interview is with Taylor Loht. Taylor's a young guy who realized that he didn't want to follow the corporate ladder, right? Work himself up to a W-2 job and then hopefully retire by the time he was 75. He said that wasn't for him. So it led into real estate investing and to multifamily syndication. So now he's a multifamily syndicator and loves everything about that. He originally started out going to school for chemical engineering and kind of went down that path and then went into some sales, but then realized his passion for real estate investing. So I think it's a really cool story that we can all learn from today. As always, like and subscribe on Wrestling with Real Estate, the YouTube channel. Go to the WWRE podcast and give me a 5-star rating or write me a great review if you think it's worthy. I'm looking to speak to as many of you as possible. I want to get to know you, find out what your real estate goals are, what you like trying to achieve, and just see if there's any way whatsoever I can help. So I'm offering up a 30-minute call if you guys are interested. It's going to be in the link in the description below or on wrestlingwithrealestate.com. Go there and sign up there. So I would love to get to know you and find out more about you. But first, enjoy today's great interview with Taylor Loht. Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWE wrestler, and now Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, multifamily real estate investor, Barri Griffiths. Now today we have Taylor with us in his very, very fancy office. He was just telling me how he spent millions on his amazingly fancy office. It looks really good. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. And, to break the fourth wall, it's a green screen. Fancy of an office.
I wasn't going to give it away. It looks good. It's one of the...
I got to be honest with the people,
Keep it real. So Taylor, thank you so much for making the time to be on this call and this interview today. I really appreciate you making the time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what your current focus is right now?
Sure, absolutely. So I host the Passive Wealth Strategies for Busy Professionals podcast, where we talk about real estate investing, the FIRE movement, and kind of what all those things mean for high-income professionals who want to retire on their own time. My background is in chemical engineering. Is what I went to school for, and I am a multifamily real estate syndicator, buy multifamily properties with passive investors and split the return, and love talking about all of those things and interviewing others on my own show and coming on shows like yours to have a nice conversation with a guy like you.
I don't know about you. I've done a few interviews myself. I prefer being the interviewer than the interviewee. It's easy to ask questions. Yeah. I don't always like talking about myself, but there we go. So cool. So you were in chemical engineering. What made you go that route? What made you decide to go into chemical? And do you still work in that field, or are you 100% in real estate right now?
So I switched over to sales partway into my career because I learned something about myself after having a hard time as a pure engineer. I decided I wanted to do chemical engineering. When I was in high school, because I saw that, we were moving right into the recession, right? I started, it was probably more fortuitous timing than anything, but I saw that chemical engineers get jobs quick. They make good starting salaries. They have a good trajectory. And I liked chemistry and math, so it seemed like a good fit. Come to find out that, I think like many entrepreneurs, I'm not the best student. I made it through. I passed, right in the middle of the chemi class, but, I had to learn along the way that, I don't know. I think it's that entrepreneur thing where we're not the best students all the time.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're a much better student than I am. I was a horrible student. That's hence why I ended up being a wrestler. Yeah. So chemical engineering, for people, including myself, that don't know, what kind of jobs would that lead you into? What kind of jobs would you do with that type of degree?
So there's a variety. I have classmates that went into the finance industry. They had to, deliberately seek that out and make that happen. I have other former classmates, one of my best friends from school, uh, works at the various plants around the country manufacturing fertilizer. Any product that you use in your daily life or not so daily life probably had the hands of a chemical engineer in it, whether it was forming the original polymers or at the site where they turn the actual plastic into a plastic component, or the gas in your car, or anything like that. There was probably a chemical engineer involved, including medicine. I mean, our hands are in every field really, and I've noticed that after moving into real estate space, generally speaking, there are a lot of engineers in real estate investing. I'm not exactly sure why. I think it's because of the numbers, but hey, you never know. I think it's the right decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially I think with apartment syndication investing, I think there's a lot of engineers in that space. I think because it really does lend itself to the numbers, right? The numbers tell you everything. The numbers will tell you what to do, what's about, how to buy, what kind of improvements to do. So the numbers really speak to you, I think. So I've noticed that a lot as well. I've noticed a lot of military people as well are in real estate investing as well, because I think they have that dedication and that doing attitude. They're used to doing and taking action. So I think I've noticed that as well. So you mentioned that that you have that entrepreneurial spirit. That's why maybe you were the best student. Where do you think that comes from? Do you just naturally have it? Do you have parents that have it? Do you have family that have it? I think that's always an interesting question.
I'm not so sure. I wouldn't rate really anybody in my family as entrepreneurial. My parents raised us very well and treat us very well, and they have good jobs, but they're not entrepreneurs. They've done well, and they're thinking about retiring now at this point within the next few years, but not entrepreneurs. And I feel even weird calling myself an entrepreneur, because I'm more trying to acknowledge that I have that streak, that drive, that dedication. But I think there were some I forget the exact guy who it was, but it was some seminal producer who was involved in the nascent movie industry, and he said any title you give yourself doesn't matter, or something very much along those lines. And that quote has stuck with me in many ways. And I say I'm an entrepreneur. I think I have those tendencies. I have that interest, that drive, but there's just so much, especially these days with social media, things like that. There's a lot of, pardon the term, but there's a lot of entrepreneur porn, right? You get out there, you get all excited, and then there's so many people that don't want to, put in the work and, learn how to build systems and, do all of those things. And I think that's really what it comes down to. And the proof is in the pudding and in the making things happen. So, that's why I'm kind of wary to use the term, but I'm also just trying to be honest about it,
Yeah.
and acknowledge that.
Yeah. Well, I think the entrepreneurial spirit and being an entrepreneur is just being willing to do what a lot of other people won't, and having that self-drive to do it by yourself, right? Because a lot of people, they need to be employed, right? I have a lot of friends that I've talked to about real estate investing, and they've kind of looked into it. But, I have one friend, I sent him a 20-minute video about a cool video about real estate investing the other day, and this was on Tuesday, and it's Friday today, and he still hasn't watched it. It's a 20-minute video, so I'm like, I don't think you could be. And he was talking about doing some entrepreneurial stuff, and I said, I think, and I'm being honest with you, I think you need to go work for someone. Find something that you enjoy doing and that you can get paid well for, and go work for someone, and I think someone like that, especially, we're talking about syndications, and I'm getting off topic a little bit about your story now, but I think someone like that is a good fit for a syndication, because someone who doesn't have that drive to do it themselves, they need to be told where to be, what to do, what time, for how long. I think those people, being an entrepreneur, and, that's a big concept, right? It can cover a lot of things, but, in terms of being a real estate investor, I don't think that's a good fit for them in terms of an active investor. But that doesn't mean that you can't invest in real estate, right? Just because you're a good employee doesn't mean that you can't invest in real estate. And that's, one of the many, many things, and we'll get into this later, that I think is amazing about investing in syndications, that it suits a certain type of people, and that type of person, it fits well. So So then you've been a chemical engineer. You started, then you went into sales. You said, right, because you realized you had more entrepreneurial mindset. Then what brought you to real estate and real estate investing and into syndications?
It's tough to diagnose precisely what, but there were a few things that happened. So I mentioned that I was getting into college right when the Great Recession happened, and I'm super super fortunate. I had all the luck in the world. My parents put me through college. I mean, I'm set up right, so I want to acknowledge them and be honest and disclose all of these advantages that I've had in life and just be true about it. But I still watched my parents struggle. I mean, the times were tight. My parents' employers were laying people off left and right, and they kept their jobs. But I know it was a struggle, and I particularly watched my dad really grapple with that to keep me in school and keep us all fed and all those things. He did a great job, but that put the seed in my mind that okay, I need to try to make sure that doesn't happen to me, and that kind of stuck with me till I got out into the real world and got a job, started paying my own bills. And real estate had been absolutely destroyed, but I come from a long line of farmers on my dad's side, and there's always, I think, also been some inherent knowledge of the value of real estate, no matter what it is. I think I love multifamily, but it's not the only game in town. People make money on land, and I do have some relatives, aunts and uncles and cousins that own a handful of rentals. So we kind of have that knowledge. And I did the math one day. I knew how much money I was making. It was not much. It was much less than I expected to be making when I got out of college. I saw that, okay, I see what the people around me at my company were making, which I think is something that's also important to look for new graduates. And it wasn't that much more than I was making, and the trajectory of the company, all those things. And I did the math. I mean, getting back to the math, if I can expect to save X amount of dollars a year and make, say, 8% a year on average, and compound that forward, adding, pay raises, things like that, just do the math. When am I going to be able to retire? I mean, 75, depending on how things go. So, okay, I need to find a way to grow my income. So that was part I had to do with getting into sales and making more money. But even then, I think, we busy professionals generally miss out on a lot of opportunities to generate passive streams of income. With real estate, I think real estate is the best option, but it's not the only one. But when it comes to real estate, they just don't know what's out there. And I started learning about real estate, listening to podcasts. One of the early ones I listened to, I've got Joe Fairless is my mentor now, but I got one of his books here. I started listening to his show pretty early on, and others, real estate guys, things like that. And I was just like, this clicks. But I didn't see I still wasn't ready to get into syndication. I didn't see the connection between where I was and becoming one of these guys I was listening to on these podcasts and YouTube channels, things like that, that have built these fantastic real estate portfolios and helped other people invest in real estate. And I was still in that mindset of, well, education is what's going to get you paid. And until I read the book that most people in real estate have read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that really shifted my mind. I mean, I was going to go to business school. I took the GMAT. I started applying to MBA programs, and I got a decent score. And I wasn't the best student in undergrad, but I would have gotten into, I think, a decent business school and gotten out making money. But at the end of the day, I would have racked up a ton of debt, missed a lot of time earning a salary, and ultimately, I think would have gotten a pay rise, but would have gotten into a career that I wouldn't find fulfilling. So it was a wrong move for a lot of reasons. Unfortunately, I didn't go that way. And I continued learning about real estate, learned about real estate syndication, and just I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I learned all the things. Everybody, I think, once you kind of get into real estate, you hear about flipping, you hear about the BRRRR, you hear about house hacking. I think those are all great. I don't have any like moral qualms with any of them, but it wasn't right for me. So I learned about syndication and decided that's what I want to do and set off on that path.
That's the cool thing about real estate, I think, is that there's no right fit necessarily, right? It can just whatever you get drawn to. There's people making millions wholesaling. There's people making millions flipping. There's people making millions with the burst strategy, with the Airbnb, with whatever strategy you want to put out there. There's people successful. So it's not like there's one better than the other. You just need to pick one and kind of. And there's some people that do everything, right? Like you probably know who Jay Scott is, right? He's the anomaly.
Oh, yeah.
He does a little bit of everything, and I think he's smart enough that he can kind of get away with it. But I always think it's a good idea to find what you get drawn to and pick that and stick to it and learn that as best as you can. And then once you master that, maybe you can mess around with some other stuff. But I think that there's a proven route, whatever route that is in real estate, you can kind of go down that route. So I think that's a great point, that people, you can do whatever you want in real estate. That's what I love about it, is, well, it can create this amazing life for yourself. And you talked about the path that maybe you were going to go down, and a lot of people are going to go down. It's that corporate route of hoping that you have enough money saved and invested when you're 65 that you can just walk away and live this amazing retirement. But we'll maybe get into this a little bit more with your podcast and your platform that you're talking with the FIRE movement and everything like that. But to me, that's just craziness, and once you get enlightened, right, once you open your eyes and you see this amazing world that's available to you, it's just crazy. Because for one thing, you don't know what your health is going to be like when you're 65, right? I hope everyone is super healthy, living super, they're springing their step and they can do everything. But, I'm 38 now, right? And, I'm starting to feel a little bit older these days than I did when I was in my 20s, for sure. I'm still not that old, but still I can feel a difference, and I think now is the time that you want to enjoy it and you want to have that money. When you're older as well, when you won't have kids, living at home, you won't have, you won't want to travel as much, you might not have the same amount of energy, you might not have the same zest, and I think now is the time to live. And I think, yes, we have all our different whys, but I think when I talk to people, and I kind of explain that to them, they don't think about it, because I think we all go down the same road, right? Most people are traveling on this road that's going to, corporate job, make as much money as you can, work hard, live for the weekends, that's another thing. And it's just, real estate is just an amazing tool that you can completely change your life. And didn't mean to get off topic there, but it's just, I'm so passionate about that. I think it's just unbelievable when you talk about that. I just think it's just amazing what you can achieve and change your life. So it's really cool. Yeah. So I'm just really passionate about that. But so the thing that you were talking about, that you talked about your dad, that he struggled to keep you in school and you had all this education. Was it a difficult decision to walk away from that? Because I'm sure a lot of people might be in the same situation. They've been to school and they've worked hard and they've finally maybe got this good job, and because of what they've done before, they might find it hard to just leave that, because they may be grappling with a decision of like, how can I leave all this work that I've done? And maybe their parents have done the same for them. I think it'd be an interesting insight, how you came to that decision, and was it a tough decision?
So perhaps I'm being a bit ambiguous with my prior answers. I do still work in sales. I actually, the problem is I love what I do, right? And I haven't had to face that question yet, but that is something that, at least, on my show, and when you meet a lot of these people just at real estate events, things like that, people that create this passive income, they reach their FIRE number, their freedom number, whatever. So many people who create that decide, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna keep working, because the dream of, and this might sound crazy, and I thought it sounded crazy, but the dream of hitting 40 or 50 or whatever and having enough passive income to retire and sit on a beach, once you do it, it's not that much fun. Like, people get bored after a couple of weeks of sitting on the beach. And again, going back to how great real estate is, I mean, I can do this stuff forever. This is fun. I mean, doing what we're doing now, of course, we can't go to events, but going to events, national events, local events. I host a meetup in my city, Richmond, Virginia. I mean, yeah, it's work, but it's fun. I'm having a great time. So, if it came down to like full retirement, just going to live on passive income, I mean, we'll see. We'll revisit that when I get to that point. I reserve the right to make a choice. But I honestly would not be surprised if I decide to continue remaining active, just basing on the people who I've met who have gotten to that point and either have decided to remain active because they need something to do, or they went passive and then were like, man, this sucks. I want to go be active in my business again or start a new business. And that's what people do. So, I mean, that's what I see myself doing when I get to that point, is remaining active in something in some way.
And I think that's such a great point. I think that's the beauty of real estate, right? So for one, I think there's two things. One, the type of people that's going to reach that retirement that weren't gifted millions of dollars, right? People who had to work for it and earn that, be able to retire by 40. You have to have a certain drive and a certain type of personality to get to that, right? And that type of person isn't the type of person that's going to want to sit on the beach 365 days a year, right? They might want to sit on it for 60 days a year, maybe, but and that's the great thing about real estate. It gives you that choice. So when you get to that freedom number, that FIRE number, that financial independent number, you have the choice then. You can take a year and just enjoy and travel. And then after a year, you can go back to real estate. It's not like a normal job where you're relying on the employer. It's up to you how much you invest. Then you can go gangbusters again and go working, every day of the week if you want, or you can work a few days. You can create that life. And it goes back to what we were talking before. You can create the life that you want. So that's the beautiful thing about it. And with real estate as well, you can work pretty much remotely, right? There's times when you've got to do inspections, meet with investors and stuff. But this time, I think as well, has proven to us, a lot of us, that you don't need to be somewhere to do something. You can we're having a great conversation over Zoom. It's something that, a year ago you might not have thought about, or a few years ago for sure. And we're just here on virtual meetups, like you mentioned. I don't know if you've gone virtual, but I've been going to so many meetups these days that are in the other side of the country, in Atlanta and New York and all these places, Charlotte and all these places. So I think that's another great thing. And we're not like trying to push real estate on anything. I think our passion for real estate comes out. And I think what it is that you can create the lifestyle you want. And I think that's the simplest thing that I can way I can put it, that it's just so amazing about it.
Yeah. And I mean, traveling to things was fun. The virtual events, they're not quite as great, but they do kind of scratch that itch of having a conversation with people or getting to know new people or sharing information, whatever. And, this as the host of a podcast, you get to have conversations with some amazing people who, you're probably not afraid of anybody based on your, wrestling experience, being in the ring and everything. But, when I started meeting some of the folks who now I interview on my show at some of these events, I was just so intimidated to talk to them because of all of their accomplishments. But I consider it a great privilege now that, we get to have a conversation more as peers, and I get to learn from them and help share that information. And I don't know, the stuff's fun. I mean, if it wasn't fun, honestly, I wouldn't be doing this stuff. I mean, the money aside, I mean, why would I spend, all of my quote free time doing something that I hate to do? It wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. And that's what I found as well. Maybe you found the same. The more successful people you talk to and you interview, the more you find out that they love what they do. They just say, just like what you just said now, it's not work to them. They just get up every day and they're excited to do what they did. I interviewed a guy that was in a rock band, and he said when he was partying and doing all this crazy stuff by his own admission, and he said, once he's got into real estate, he got the same buzz from real estate as he did from performing and partying and acting like a rock star, and it's just, it just shows you people's passion. I think it's just so interesting. And I think if you have that passion, it's not work then, right? Like you said, you probably, if you had the choice to retire or not to, right, you're going to keep doing, because it's fun. It really is fun.
Now you tell me, what's more stressful, collecting rent from a tenant or being in the ring with John Cena?
Yeah, being in the ring way more, because I have a property manager, so I don't collect the rent.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah, I have a middleman taking care of everything. So yeah. So then you went, so you talked about you went, the syndication. Was that what was your first ever real estate deal?
So my first real estate investment deal, I invested passively in a syndication. So, I mean, throughout this process, obviously, I kind of alluded to I was saving my money and investing. And the first book I read about investing was The Intelligent Investor, which tells you basically to become an index fund investor, which I don't think is necessarily bad advice. It just wasn't going to create the result that I was looking for. But based on that behavior, I had some capital to invest and spent time learning about real estate syndication, how to evaluate a deal, how to evaluate a sponsor, all of that stuff. And ultimately met various syndicators and found a deal I was interested in and had the money ready to go and made the investment.
How was that process? How was that first deal? Did it go well? And
so yeah, we made money. It was 2 properties in Atlanta, Georgia. And as a passive investor, I still passively invest in syndications too. But as a passive investor, I never saw these properties in person. I don't know much about Atlanta beyond the due diligence I'd done at that time. Anymore, I'm not up on it. But 2 properties, 454 units with a syndicator who's been on my show, and we'll probably get more into that deal. And before we get into some of the headaches on that deal, this has been publicly disclosed, and I'm not opening the kimono for any information that hasn't already been put out there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So maybe I think that's an interesting subject as well. You know, as you know, you're syndicates as well, but you invest passively. What do you like about passive investing? So people that, you know, this might be their first time hearing and understanding what their options are in terms of passive investing. What appeals to it to you? What do you like about it?
I think number one, I like that I get to invest my money with people and teams that I've spent time vetting and getting to know and that I believe in and trust. And probably number one, tied for number one, is I get a lot of potential and in reality, like asset diversification. So now I'm invested in some self-storage. So I don't do self-storage real estate myself, at least at this time, but by meeting and vetting a self-storage syndication team and looking at their deals over time, I got to get direct exposure to self-storage investing, different from if I had just bought, say, a REIT that focuses on self-storage.
Yeah. And so how did you vet the self-storage? Because obviously vetting different asset classes, so it's the same but different, right? Because you still want to know that they have integrity, they have a track record, and you know, that you're comfortable with them. But maybe talk a little bit about maybe the difference in vetting someone that's doing self-storage as opposed to multifamily.
Sure, absolutely. So, you know, I listened to your interview with Neil Henderson, and he gets into some of the details on self-storage investing. So for the listeners out there, if you want to kind of get some of the details on how those properties work, I definitely recommend checking out that interview on this show. So, but don't go away yet. But for the syndication team, my vetting process, I got to know these folks over the course of a few years. We had a lot of the same network. And I knew other investors who had invested in deals of theirs in the past. Additionally, I watched them do deals before I invested in their deals. So, you know, I take my time in investing with folks, and I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. I agree. I had someone on that. He's a very experienced gentleman as a passive investor. He'd completely only done in passive investing, and he'd been involved in 50 deals. And he said he would take usually a year to see, at least a year of watching someone, you know, they meet them, see the deal, see how things worked out. And, you know, because it takes time, right? There's a lot that, you know, these things don't usually go wrong overnight, right? There's, you know, someone could start out and they can be doing things well for a few months, but you know, over a year or two, you can kind of see how these people, how they report, how they act, how successful their deals are. You know, you can learn a lot over a space of a year. So I think that's prudent advice for anyone out there to kind of, when looking to invest passively. So
yeah, be careful.
Yeah,
That's what it comes down
right.
to.
Yeah. Be careful. That's great advice. So then what was your first active deal? Was it as a syndication, or did you buy a single family home as an investment? What was your first active deal?
It was a syndication. Yeah,
Okay.
syndication in Texas.
Okay. Can you talk to us a little bit about that deal?
Sure. We still own that property. It's in the Panhandle. It's 225 units. It's like 10.5 million purchase. And we went in and got new property management. We have somebody on board who's a phenom at construction management. So she's handling that, and it's going well. We're in the midst of COVID now, right? And there are eviction or have been eviction moratoriums all over the country. And it's unfortunate, but for the situation that everybody's in, right? I mean, people have different feelings. Property owners have different feelings about eviction. I don't like evicting people, but it's part of the business, and it is what it is. Fortunately, our collections have primarily held up, and the city, I think, is and the state of Texas generally is one of the better places to be in terms of being able to collect that rent. And then looking forward, it looks like we'll be good on getting folks out who haven't been paying. Unfortunately, our collections have been good, so most people have been paying. But it remains a concern for everybody, right? Because of the eviction moratorium until the end of the year. What is that really going to mean for property owners? And then something to be aware of, I think, that a lot of folks might not have run into, is how much leeway or decision-making power, I suppose, that judges have in these eviction courts. Even if the law says X, Y, and Z, the judge still has a lot of capability to use their own judgment. And these days, since judges in many areas are elected, that judgment is going against property owners. And that's something we see. I'm very active on BiggerPockets. That's where you found me. We see folks starting threads about that. I had all my ducks in a row. They weren't paying. The law says they should be evicted, and the judge said, I'm not going to do it. Again, that hasn't been the case for us yet, but when you spend enough time, get to know enough people, and talk to people off the record, you find out the cities that are going that way and not having great collections.
Yeah, I was just speaking to my property manager yesterday, and he was saying that it's going county by county there. So they had one county that a judge said, no, I'm not evicting anyone. I don't care what paperwork you had. And then the next county over, the judge pretty much, if you had all the paperwork in the right order, they were evicting people. So it's a bit of a crapshoot, right? It's a bit of a lottery right now, I think. And it's not necessarily a reflection of if you're doing the right thing or you're not doing the right thing. It's just dependent, like you said, on that judges, right? They're the all powerful, the almighty right now in decision making, and it's a little worrying, to be honest with you, because how do you predict that, right? How do you run a business when something is so unpredictable? And that's kind of the situation we are now on. What is the date? The 10th?
9/11.
11th.
Today's the 11th.
I lost the day somewhere. It's the 11th. Yeah, it's the 11th today. So I think that's interesting. So you bought 225 units on your first deal, right? To a lot of people, that's unfathomable. It's like, how do you go from 0 deals to 225 units, right? A 10 point something million purchase. But I'm sure you didn't do it alone, right? It's like an NFL team. Tom Brady is the star quarterback, but he doesn't do it alone. So maybe talk to us about how you got comfortable doing that, because I think it's a mindset thing for a lot of us as well, right? It's buying anything over 100 units is like, I can't do that. I haven't done that. I'm not, but it's maybe talk a little bit to the mindset, and then who's part of your team and how you're able to do that.
Yeah. So I'm really glad you brought up mindset, and you're absolutely right that I'm part of a team. I'm not the lead guy. I'm not the only guy. I don't own those 225 units. And if you spend enough time in this space, you'll see folks who are pretty loose with that phrase of I own XYZ units. Do you, or do you have investors who really own most of that equity? And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think, again, we need to be honest about, the situation. So going back to your question about mindset. So, I spent some time, I wasn't I got to the point I wasn't making progress, and I didn't understand why. And I have a business coach, Joe Fairless, and he helps with the business side. But again, something he's talked about is he's not the mindset guy. He has his own mindset guy, Trevor McGregor. And I got to the point where I'd gotten so frustrated with not making the progress that I wanted that I hired Trevor as a business success coach. And he really helped me work on my mindset and realize the areas where I was falling off and not living up to my potential. And, it's a constant process of managing that. I was already cognizant of mindset being important because at least at the time, I was a pretty avid meditator. I'll be honest, I've kind of fallen off at this point, but I was aware of the importance of mindset then, and through working with Trevor, developed some new techniques, strategies, whatever you want to call them, to keep an eye on my mindset and improve and step up my mindset. And, the mindset comes first, and then comes a plan. And again, working with Joe, we built my plan, and, we execute the plan and constantly refine it. And that's really what it comes down to. Once you have the mindset in place, you need a plan that works, and you need to stick with the plan. I think one thing go back to saying I'm, an entrepreneur, I'm entrepreneurial. And I think we all make missteps. We all have failings in that way. And I think one thing that a lot of entrepreneurial people, a mistake that they make, particularly when they get in real estate, is shiny object syndrome. You might have talked about that before. You might feel that yourself, but I am a shiny object syndrome guy. And you don't just, life doesn't come with a manual that tells you, hey, if you want to get into real estate, just be careful of shiny object syndrome. To figure that out. And unfortunately, I figured that out. Now I have tactics in place that prevent me from, going down that route. But I think that's not talked about enough, is just being aware of, if you're entrepreneurial or you're in real estate, you need to keep an eye out for shiny object syndrome. For folks out there who don't know what that is, it's basically you're working on this thing, you have this great idea, this great strategy, and then you go to a real estate event and the speaker's talking about lease options or self-storage or something other than what you're doing. And his strategy is amazing. You make $1 million a week, you work an hour a month, it's going to be so great. And it's only going to cost you a little bit of your time to get started, maybe a little money for his book or whatever. And that, I'm one of those people that maybe I don't go down that route, but I start thinking, and I think it takes, I hate to say self-awareness, because I don't want to say that I'm a particularly self-aware person, but you need to, if you're somebody like me, you need to figure out that you have that predisposition and adjust accordingly.
Absolutely. I was smiling and laughing there because I've 100% had the shiny object syndrome. I have investing ADD, I say, because it's all over the place. I spent, I don't know we're interviewing you, but I spent 6 months nearly buying an assisted living facility.
Oh, nice.
A residential, and I was under contract then. It's a whole different story about that, but just shows you how guilty I am of. And I think you summarized it up perfectly the way you talked about it there. It just sounds so good to be true. You spend a little bit of your time, you're going to make millions in the first 2 weeks, and you don't have it, you need very little of your own money, blah 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 blah, and you're just like, okay. I think what I'm guilty of as well is, it sounds like the low-hanging fruit, right? The low-hanging fruit is always something that you want to just go grab, because if it's that easy and this guy's made all that money from it, why not go do it yourself, right? But the truth of the matter is that guy may not have made all that money to start off with, but even if he has, he may have got lucky, or he's just spent years doing that. As we talked about earlier, whatever strategy you choose, there's people making millions. So if you just find those people and follow what they've done in your strategy that you've chosen already, that you've spent all this time doing, and stick to that and just dedicate yourself to that, I think I think that's what I always have to tell myself. Listen, there's people making millions in this space. You've learned all about this. You love it. Just stick to it. And I think but I still have that challenge to this day. I'll listen to a podcast or something. I'll be like, maybe I should do a little bit of that on the side as well, So I think that's a cool story as well, that you were aware enough of yourself and of what was going on that you realized that you needed a productivity coach. What does he class himself as?
A business success results coach, I think is what he goes by. But he's a Tony Robbins master platinum coach, and he coached and still to this day coaches Joe Fairless, who has bought pushing $1 billion in real estate with investors, syndicated that amount. And I thought proof's in the pudding. Why not give it a shot and see what happens? And I only realized up to a certain point that, okay, something's not going right here, and maybe that's right. I needed somebody to help me figure out the rest of, here are these mistakes, these problems, whether it's shiny object syndrome, or, again, I know you're aware of limiting beliefs because you talked about them with Neil, but limiting beliefs, whatever it is, we've all have a lot of these to a certain degree, and we might not realize it.
Yeah, no, definitely limiting beliefs are such a strong thing that can hold you back, right? It's like carrying around an anchor sometimes, it's just kind of hard to swim with that anchor pulling you down, these limiting beliefs. And if you can just at least identify them to start off with, I think that's been big for me to realize, just identify some limiting beliefs and to be able to just then overcome that. So I think, as you were talking, I think an interesting thing, so you went into, a large, a lot of people, they'll start 20, 30 units and 50, 60, and then go from there, right? And I think it's amazing that you were able to start with 225 units as a syndication. So people out there, maybe talk about why you decided to go for 225 units as a syndication rather than to buy maybe 20 units by yourself, right? Because it's two different things. It's the same, but it's different, right? And what made you decide that to go syndication rather than just to own the, a smaller property 100% by yourself?
That's a great question. And, again, to hammer, I don't want to be Pollyanna about it, but there are people who make a lot of money buying 20 units on their own, and that is totally fine. For me, I knew that I didn't have enough knowledge to buy 20 units on my own, right? I just can't do it. And I can't, there's not enough margin in that to bring in, more partners and figure it all out for 20 units. You might as well go bigger and bigger and either add to an existing team and help the existing team out, or put a team together. So, I mean, there are a lot of reasons to go bigger, particularly when you're bringing in investors and syndications. There are fixed costs to putting together the legal documents, things like that, if you're talking about syndicating 20 units in most markets, the price point is just too low for the cost of syndication to really make sense. And I think it really comes down to not having the knowledge. I think at the time, I'm sure at the time I would not have qualified for a loan on 20 units if I'm being honest. And I think real estate is a team sport. And we're told our entire lives of, growing up, going to school, whatever, you can't work with that other guy. This is not a team project. You can't look at your neighbor's paper. And reality is not that way. You can work with whoever you want, and you can work together on whatever you want. I mean, you got to comply with laws and things like that. But beyond that, you can do anything you want. And I think being part of, a larger team is a great place to get started in real estate. If you're somebody who wants to go bigger, but, doesn't want to do it in a particular way, form a team, join a team, something like that, and go for, bigger deals.
I love how you say that. I didn't have the knowledge to buy a 20 units. I only had the knowledge to buy 225. That seems completely counterintuitive, but I completely know what you mean, because you're not buying 225 units by yourself. You're partnering with property managers, with experienced lenders, with other experienced investors, I'm sure, with, contractors, with you have all this team in place. So you don't have to have the knowledge, right? You just piggyback with them. You just bring everyone together and you help mold that team. And I think I think people will be like, wait, he can buy 20 units, but he could buy 22 and 25. But it's all about the team. So maybe as we've discussed that, maybe talk about who was on that team for that first deal, just so that people can understand what goes into building a team for a 225 unit purchase.
Sure. I mean, we've got one gentleman who is has a loan background, so he handled a lot of the debt side of things, and also as we talk about the future potential to refinance and things like that, he's kind of our guru there. One of our partners is an asset and construction management, really a property management, or sorry, not property management, project management expert, and that's what she brings, a lot of that to the table. And we've got other folks involved that are handling the finances, and who we have one gentleman who really orchestrated a lot of this deal, and put the pieces together. He's a fantastic networker. That's how we all put the whole team together. And there's other folks involved with asset management too. That's a lot of my part, and investor management, things like that. But when it comes down to construction management, I'm not a construction management expert. We need somebody who is a construction management expert. And she came on my show to discuss asset and construction management, and why those two, or how those two should be set up in her conception. I think she's right that a lot of multifamily syndicators have their property manager organize their construction management, do their construction management, hire the contractors, things like that. Some are good, some are bad, but in many cases, I think in all cases, if you can combine the asset management and the construction management piece, you get a lot more efficiency, you get better performance out of contractors, save some cost, and really keep a better eye on the deal. And that way your property manager can do what they're good at, which is manage the property, keep tenants in the units, and raise the rents, things like that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then, so how do you form these relationships, right? You're just starting out. Okay, you have some education, and you're obviously a very intelligent guy. And how do you form these relationships? How do you get people to maybe take you seriously, right? To start off with, right? I want to buy 225 units. I have no experience. I love real estate. I've invested passively in this deal. But how do you get these people to partner with you to start off with?
I wish I knew the secret sauce, honestly. I spent a lot of time in these spaces before I had really done anything. I went to a lot of events and met a lot of people, and I do have a background in successfully doing things in business, and at least before I got into this space. So I had some kind of experience to talk to. I think also, again, Joe talks a lot about just generally building your network, building your brand is big. Getting out there, hosting a podcast, which is what you and I do, building my meetup. I host a meetup here in Richmond, and it's an in-person meetup. We're not doing it now, but 500 members, and we were getting 50 people coming to each event, or up to 50 people at each event, in a small room at a bar. It was great. I was having a lot of fun with it. But it's you meet people, get to know them, follow up, hang on to their information, and just build relationships. People remember you. It's amazing than just the number of people that you meet and get to know just by being friendly. And as somebody who, I go back and forth on this whether or not I believe it, but I if you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have told you I'm an introvert. And today, I'd probably tell you the same thing, but I'd also tell you it depends on the time of day, right? I'm somebody who I can put the introversion away and be extroverted for a little while, because that's what I need to do. And that is another lesson that I didn't come up with that, right? I learned that at the first real estate syndication event that I went to. Russell Gray, who's been on my show as well, and I told him, you taught me this and it was amazing, got up in front of the room, and I'm going to horribly paraphrase here, but he said, I identify as an introvert. This is not something that I would normally do. He's been doing it for a long time. He's done many of these. but he said, in order to be successful, I need to pretend to be somebody I'm not, which is to say I need to pretend to be extroverted. I need to pretend to be somebody who is going to get up here and give, in Russell's case, give an amazing weekend long presentation on all these topics. And, that was one of the things that really, one of the early lessons that really has stuck with me. I mean, there have been other things, not to go off on a tangent, but it's in that same vein, that same event earlier in the day. Maybe it's the confluence of these two events that made it stick. But I arrived again. I hadn't done anything in real estate. I was just like, I've been investing and I want to get into this business, but I need to learn how. I show up to the event, get my name tag. I paid my admission, and like, all right, what do I do now? Everybody's standing around. The event's not happening, and a gentleman, kind of standing off the side, saw my name tag. He said, "Taylor, come on over here, talk with us." He just brought me into the group, right? And it was amazing. I mean, that small act, I remember that guy to this day, and that small act of kindness, or he saw it. I was looking around like a deer in the headlights. Has stuck with me, and also combined with what Russell had said later, I realized that, okay, I have the power to change this, but, and this guy up here changed this, but I'm going to have to make a conscious effort at that. So yeah, that was an early lesson that made a huge difference. And again, getting back to, I mentioned it's a team sport. Real estate's a people business. It's a team sport. It's a people business. And, this guy who brought me into the group knows that. He's a very experienced real estate investor, and just showed me a moment of kindness and changed the trajectory of my real estate investing career forever. And he might not even know that. I've told him, he probably forgot. He's just such a nice guy. He probably forgot, but I'll always remember.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. Thank you for sharing that to start off with. But that's so true, that it's a people business. But also what I found as well is that for the most part, the successful people in this business, in real estate in general, and in syndication, the successful people, they're really good people, like you mentioned earlier, when you have guests on your show, you get nervous, or you were like, you see them as, heroes, or whatever however you would call it. And I was the same way, but when you start talking to these people, you're like, well, why would they want to talk to me? They own 10,000 units or whatever, right? But it's that limiting belief. But once you start talking to them, number one, they love talking about real estate, so you have that, right? And then number two, they're usually really good people that just, they don't mind helping you. They want you to succeed. They're just good people. And I think for anyone going to an event, I think that was a good story, I think, to help, because I've been there myself, right? You go to an event, and I'm a bit of an introvert, believe it or not. Like my wife argues with me that, but I am completely, I get anxious about going to public places to meet people and stuff sometimes. But, when we go to a network event, other people have the same fears that we have, so it might be you someone did that to you, but when you go to events, and even if I went to the first place, it might be me saying hello to someone, and that might change the other person's dynamic in that event. So I think that's always good to remember. We always think from our point of view, right? But it's also good to think from other point of view, because they're probably thinking in the same way as we do. So if you go to these events, just say hello and talk, and nobody's gonna drill you or be mean to you. I would imagine everyone's going to want to talk to you, because if you're there for real estate and you love real estate, you just talk about real estate. It's easy, right? We're doing it right now. We're 50 minutes in, and it's crazy. So I think that's because I hear about all the time about people going to networks and think that they have this fear, and I completely get it. But I think it's good to have that perspective that other people feel the same, and that you just need to talk to people and just face it. And like you said, if you are an introvert, just fake it. And that's what I do as well. I just try and fake it, put a smile on your face, and just say hello and ask them what they do in real estate. It's the simplest question, then you're off to the races. You also mentioned that you have your podcast, and is it YouTube and sort of social media platform, right? Talking about the FIRE movement, not just about apartment syndication, but you talk about the FIRE movement, the financial freedom, whatnot. So maybe talk to us a little bit about why you started that and kind of why you chose those subjects. As well as, I think you talk to busy professionals as well, right? That's what you market to. Sorry if I'm butchering your
No worries.
podcast.
No worries. So yeah, we talk about, I only recently started adding the FIRE movement in, actually. I kind of had the realization that early on, I was pretty inspired by the FIRE movement. I read the book, The Intelligent Investor, still have it, but a lot of the FIRE strategy is kind of based around that index investing. And I knew about Mr. Money Mustache and all these guys that push a more like super duper frugal strategy and for reaching the FIRE numbers, saving your money, living way below your means. And I knew I wasn't about that. I love to travel and I love to, do things. I'm responsible with my money, but today's only going to happen once, right? And then it's going to be tomorrow and that day's gone. So what do I want to do with it? So yeah, we started adding the FIRE stuff in recently. I like to talk about this idea of fat FIRE, which is the opposite of the cut your expenses to the bone. Fat FIRE is really more about determine whatever your number is for you that you want it to be for your assets or passive income in retirement, and find a way to get there is kind of what it comes down to. And it has I think a more a higher ceiling of thought level or thinking, and just I think it's more interesting personally. We talk about real estate investing as well because, again, preaching to the choir, you and I are of the same mind that it's the best strategy out there. I mean, I'm not opposed to talking about other things, but I think real estate is even still underrated as a strategy to build long-term wealth. And I think part of one of the kind of bridges I'm trying to build here, and I'm forming this conception kind of within this current month that we're talking. I'm speaking at an event coming up, and my topic is what the FIRE movement gets wrong about real estate. And I'm nailing it down to 5 things, but I think really what it comes down to is folks have this idea of I can only invest in real estate through REITs or buying a single family up the road, and that's it. And that's just so not true. And it's not people's fault they don't know that. It's those of us that put content out there, we got to bring you that message. And that's really what I'm trying to do. Even though I do syndications, it's not the only thing I talk about. There are notes, private lending, turnkeys, triple net. And I talk with people who are active real estate investors as well, because some folks want to kind of have a hybrid of their passive investments and active investments. So we keep it, in that vein of the FIRE movement, financial independence, and really kind of sometimes getting into the weeds of various real estate investing topics. And it's a blast.
I love that you talk about it because I found the FIRE movement about a year ago. Maybe I was probably late to the game finding it, but I started listening to, excuse me, almost all the Choose FI podcasts, and they talk about, you could probably explain this better than me, but you need to get to a 4% drawdown rate, right? So if you want to live a 40,000, you need to have $1 million in net worth so you can draw down that 4% every year. But then being in real estate, I was blown away by that. To start off with, it means that you're taking down 4% of your money every year. So the value of your money is going down 4% every year, right? Okay, you're compounding at hopefully a higher rate, but it's still so in real estate, say you invest in a syndication and you get an 8% preferred return. Not only is your money staying the same, it's likely growing because of appreciation, but that cash flow is higher. So you on that $1 million, take that $1 million example, and you get an 8% preferred return. You're making $80,000 a year on that $1 million, and it's growing, and you have tax benefits with that, so that you're probably paying very little in tax benefits, and you don't have to put any money in an IRA or a 401k. You can access it now. You can do it. If you have that $1 million, you can start tomorrow. And to me, that I was blown away by that. I don't know why it's not preached more, because what I've heard a few times is that you have to be an accredited investor, but you don't have to be an accredited investor, right, to invest in the deal, depending on the deal, 506C or 506B, of course. But if you're investing in a 506B, you can be a sophisticated investor and have that relationship with people. And I'm amazed that it's not talked about more, because I think it's such a better shit. And I'm not saying you need to put 100% of your money in real estate, but if you put 500,000 of that, you know, you're pretty much matching your $40,000 in the other way. So I don't know if you came across that same scenario, same situation, and what you thought.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of the Choose FI guys. We live in the same city. They're in Richmond, Virginia as well. And I've spoken at one of their events here in Richmond about real estate investing, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, that 4% rule, I think you nailed it. But one of the things that kind of misses is the potential for cash flow in real estate. And not even, I mean, you mentioned syndications, not even just syndications. Buy a single family, buy a turnkey, whatever, invest in a fund. I think that kind of leaves that opportunity out. And I'm not really sure why that is. To talk about the movement a little more broadly, something that I've noticed is a lot of the recommendations. I'm a little nervous to say this actually, but maybe it'll make me seem cynical, or I don't want to seem like I'm talking about anybody in particular, but a lot of the recommendations that are made are based on whether or not the blog writer is getting an affiliate check. And we've seen some increase in talking about syndications, particularly with CrowdStreet or Fundrise. I think there's one of them that will pay a referral fee just when you register, because if they make an investment and you have to be a broker dealer to get paid on that, and that's a lot messier from a security standpoint, but they must have at least determined that, hey, we can pay bloggers $15 or whatever it is for every registration. And in the FIRE community, the blogging community, so many of the recommendations are driven by, they can get a commission for referring somebody for this bank account or this credit card, things like that, or this brokerage account, whatever. And I might be wrong about that. It might not be true, but it's just something that I've observed, and I'm still trying to figure out. And I think that might have something to do with why there's this conception of this concept of you can't invest in syndications unless you're accredited. Well, you can't invest in crowd-funded syndications unless you're accredited, because they're 506B, they're publicly solicited. And that's why the FIRE guys are writing about them. And that's why this concept exists of there's no option for sophisticated investors who are not accredited, because there's no commission check on the back end of a 506B deal. I don't know if that's true. It's again, maybe I'm cynical, but I think it's at least a factor.
That would make sense. That would make a lot of sense, I think, and that's probably one of the main reasons why, I'm sure. So that's interesting. So as this show is called Wrestling with Real Estate, I always like to incorporate some wrestling type questions into the show. So I did give you a little bit of a heads up, so I didn't just bring it on you. So yeah, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay, honestly. So the first question is, what would your wrestling name be? If you were a wrestler, what would your wrestling name be?
That's, this is tough, and you may or may not know this. I don't know whether you have any reason to know, but I do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. It's my favorite thing to do in the world. I mean, I love all of this business stuff, but if we're talking about going out there and getting active, I love Jiu Jitsu. And I have to imagine my wrestling name would have something to do with Jiu Jitsu, maybe. And I don't know that much about wrestling, to be perfectly honest with you, but the Kimura is a move that's pretty big in my gym, although it's kind of obscure. Maybe Captain Kimura. I don't know. Got the K sound in it, so it's a little strong.
Okay, I like it. Captain Kimura. Okay. So every wrestler has a special move. What would your special move be in real estate? So what's your strength in real estate?
What's my strength in real estate? I don't tap out.
You never give up.
I'm persistent, I think, is really what it comes down to. There have been, to be honest with you, I've watched friends of mine get started in real estate after me and get further ahead, quote unquote, than me. And I think the easy, the temptation, and I do this all the time in my head, is to compare myself to them. But it's not fair to me. It's not fair to them, because we're different people and we have different backgrounds. And I think the temptation, again, in the comparing mind, would be to say, I suck, I'm going to give up. But I've been persistent, and because of that, I made the progress that I wanted to make. And I think that's really what my superpower comes down to. That's my finishing move comes down to, rather.
Yeah, no. I think that's a great superpower. I think that perseverance and being willing to just keep going no matter what is a great strength. I think, because it's not a race, right? It's just, as long as we get there, that's the most important thing. So
I'll tell you though, on the mats, jiu-jitsu, I tap out. Don't worry about that. I don't want to get hurt.
Okay. You're not ready for the UFC quite yet then?
No way, man. Come on. No
way. What's been the biggest body slam you've taken in your real estate investing career? It might be back to that first deal, maybe you invested passively that you talked about earlier.
I think so. I'm fortunate to say, we did end up making money on the deal. But again, what happened in that deal is basically I got to really sum it up, but the property manager seems to have potentially maybe embezzled some money from us, and cost the company quite a bit of funds, really put us in a turmoil, because he was managing the construction and he was also a general partner in the deal. So the other general partners had to go through the steps of removing him from the company, getting new property management, fixing the damage that he'd done, and then going through various legal proceedings to, arbitration that, get that all squared away. And that actually just recently completely ended. And Mark Kenny is the syndicator. He's been on my show and he talked about this. So I'm not disclosing anything that hasn't been more broadly disclosed. But I think there was a lot of fear, right? Because I invested my hard-earned money in that deal. It worked out well in the end. That's not to say everything that causes fear is going to work out well in the end. But it was scary, but I think it was also a very good learning experience. And the syndicator I don't hold this against Mark either, but he had done deals with the guy before, things had gone well, and I guess you kind of sometimes never know when folks are going to turn. But it sucked at the time. I can't tell you that much.
Yeah, I'm sure, especially your first passive investment like that. But I'm glad it all worked out. And I guess for anyone who wants to hear more about that story in depth, and they should tune into that episode on your podcast, and then I'll put the link into the description below of that particular episode as well. So lastly, was there a moment that you were standing on the top rope getting ready to jump, but you were too scared? What was it, and then how did you overcome it?
Was there a moment?
Maybe your first deal, maybe your first syndication.
I think there is fear in doing deals, I suppose, but I do. At the time, I felt very good about the deals that I was doing, and I still do. So I certainly stand behind that track record. I mean, for me, it comes down to, I suppose, fear of the public eye in a certain way. Fear of starting a podcast. Is anybody going to listen? What am I going to say? Am I going to like being on camera? Am I blah blah blah? Or starting my meetup. Like I said, I host a meetup, and I'm not somebody. I don't really want to stand in front of people and talk about these things, except that it's not that bad. It's actually kind of fun, but it's not something that I dreamed of getting all this attention or whatever. Not really, but set up these meetups, and eventually, when you do it, you're the guy on stage for at least a little while, and that held me back from at least getting started. You get kind of more comfortable with it over time. At least I did. I can't speak for everybody. But it really comes down to those fears of, I'd say, being in the public eye, or imposter syndrome, and holding back is really the problem, or like not doing something that you know is a good idea just because of the fear of what's going to happen. You know, Jerry Seinfeld has this joke, or had this bit about, you know, people fear death more than they fear, or they fear public speaking more than they fear death. So at a funeral, they'd rather be the guy in the casket than the one giving the eulogy. And you know, it's funnier when he says it, of course, but you know, I think it's not wholly inaccurate, and you know, just kind of getting over some of that. And I've got more things coming up that are going to push the bounds, and you push my comfort level, and you know, giddy up, we'll make it happen.
Yeah. And there's a saying, or what is the saying? All your dreams and aspirations are on the other side of that comfort level, right? Nothing ever grows in comfort, right? You've always got to go on the other side of that comfort level. And that's what I always tell myself as well, because, you know, the fears you talk about is the exact same fears that I have, you know, having a meetup or doing these interviews. Who's even going to be on my show? Who would want to be on my show? But you soon find out that, you know, people.
You might be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't start, you'll never know, you know, so. And
exactly.
you'll never grow if you just stay where you are. So I think thank you for sharing that, that tidbit about yourself, you know, because it's not always easy to be vulnerable either, right? To kind of put your limiting beliefs and stuff that you've struggled out there. But I think people appreciate it. And if it helps, you know, the way I see it is, if it helps one person maybe see that and learn from it, and, you know, get over something, I think it's worth it. So cool. Well, yeah. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I mean, just to, again, just be honest about things and open. I mean, I was certainly concerned about our discussion today. Not that I was afraid you're going to be mean or anything like that, but how are we going to bring, how am I going to bring my best to the table? What do we want to talk about? You know, what's Barry going to be like? Because we haven't talked before. So, you know, I went and listened to one of your podcasts and read your Wikipedia page and looked up, you know, learned more about you, what you're like, so I could just feel more prepared, be in a more comfortable space, and learn more about your background. And then, you know, listen to a little Tony Robbins too. And I'm not even a Tony Robbins guy. I just like his audiobooks. It's great. But I mean, I think there are things that you can do to make these things less scary. You can't make it go away, but if you're giving a presentation, practice the presentation like 100 times to yourself. Do it until you can't screw it up. And then when you do it, all you have to do is just do that same rep you've done 100 times. It's so much easier. You work out the kinks, you feel a lot better about it. And, you know, I think that's really what it comes down to is you can mitigate a lot of those fears, particularly when it comes to like public speaking, just by practicing to yourself. It feels silly to give a presentation to yourself 100 times, but it doesn't feel silly when it goes better when you actually do it.
Yeah, you'll be glad you did when you're standing up there in front of the people, because it's train hard, play easy, right? Train hard and play easy.
I like that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Taylor, for being here today. Thank you for doing the research beforehand. You've been a great guest, a great interviewee. I've really enjoyed today's discussion. It's been a really fascinating story how, you know, you invested passively and then you jumped right into a 225 unit. I think that's amazing. And obviously, you know, you're continuing to grow your podcast, continuing to grow your meetup event and everything else with it, continuing to grow as a person. Before we go, where can people find you and get in contact with you and find out more about you?
Sure. So my website, passivewealthstrategy.com. If folks are interested, we've got something that I put together, the top 5 passive wealth assets for busy professionals, based on having conversations with a lot of these great real estate investors, and really the top 5 real estate strategies that, in our opinion, fit for busy professionals who don't want to go out there and, say, buy a single family and manage it on your own. There are a lot of options, and I think people need to be aware of them. Podcast is Passive Wealth Strategies for Busy Professionals, twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday. I'm considering ramping that up, but we'll see. And You can look me up on Instagram, passive_wealth_strategies. I'm on Facebook, but I am completely off of Facebook, and I'm so happy about it. So I'm trying to stay off of Facebook.
Facebook's a dangerous place.
Yeah. And, any of your listeners out there, they want to have a conversation. I offer that to listeners of other folks' shows who want to network. Just email contact@passivewealthstrategy.com. Send you the calendar link, and we can have a quick 20-minute conversation just to connect. And this is a people business, and that's what it's all about, connection.
Yeah. Very cool, very cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Hopefully you have a fantastic rest of your day, and thanks again, man.
Thank you.